All right, today we're going to be going through another Brandon Sanderson book. Today we are on to the second novella, Dawnshard. So it's a nice change of pace from the large novels that make up the bulk of the series. Earlier we read Edge Dancer, and now following the fact that we finished Oathbringer, we read Dawnshard before moving on to Rhythm of War. So Dawnshard follows a character named Rysn, and she is a nice fresh change of pace. We actually met her before, all the way back in Words of Radiance. It was Interlude 3, titled Rysn, and it depicts her journey with her Babsk, which is named Vistum, who is a Thaylen master trader that she is following around because she is his apprentice. She wants to also be a master trades person, and she follows him to the Reshi Isles, and to, more specifically, I should say, to these great islands that are made up of the Reshi great shells that move around in the water. It's said to be dozens to hundreds of them, and she tries to complete a trade deal on top of one of these great shells, which is said to be the size of a town. She actually falls off of it into the water and survives, but unfortunately, she ends up paralyzed from the waist down. So then we see her again all the way forward in Oathbringer in Interlude 13, also titled Rysn, and now she is depicted as having completed her apprenticeship. Vistum is stepping down from his typical role as a tradesman and is moving on to do more political work, and she is now keeping ledgers for Queen Finn. So it's still a high station, you could say, keeping these ledgers for the queen, but it's not what she wants to do. Her whole goal in life was to explore new lands, see new things, and now she finds herself cooped up, keeping ledgers. She's paralyzed from the waist down. She's really struggling with how to embody her new situation and how to make the most of it. But we find as the book goes on and we learn more about her as a character that she is highly resilient. There are a lot of personal lessons to be learned from her and from her struggles. So what does Dawnshard really revolve around? Because we've been talking about these past interludes, but what is Dawnshard about? We get a new setting. This is more of a sailor type setting. They're going off on a mission, setting sail on the Wonder Sail, which we actually did a video specifically on the tale of the Wonder Sail, so I'll link that below. I really enjoyed that. So we see it come back with the physical ship named after the Wonder Sail. It's, we're not sure if it's actually the Wonder Sail, if it's just named after the tale, but we see that she is given the Wonder Sail from Vistum. And there is a new need to explore this mythical, perhaps mythical island of Amia. We actually saw something mentioned about this back in Interlude 4 from Oathbringer called Kaza, and they were on a mission in that interlude, a different set of people, on this ship called First Dreams, and they were trying to get to this mythical island of Amia. They seem to have found it, and then something went awry, and later on we find that a ship was found in the ocean with no crew members on board. So it was very confusing. And they were able to figure out what that ship was, that ship was trying to go on an expedition to Amia, and Navani and Yasna want to send the Wander Sail to Amia to investigate what has happened. Now you may be thinking, why would they not just send someone like Kaladin, one of these Surge Binders, Windrunners, to just fly over and check it out? And that's because they have figured out that something around this area has the ability to take Stormlight from Surge Binders. So the implication being that if you tried to send a Windrunner to fly over the ocean to this place, if they all of a sudden lost all their Stormlight and ended up drowning in the ocean, they wouldn't want to do that. So they need to actually send this ship. So Rysn now has the Wander Sail, which is this great ship, really fortified, and they need someone to go to Amia. Rysn is going to take her ship, the Wander Sail, to do this expedition. Now, we have some other characters that come along. We get a lot more of the Lopen in this book, as well as his cousin. He has many cousins, as we know, his cousin Huyo, and we also see Rock's daughter, her name is Cord, comes along as well for a couple different reasons. One, a very practical reason, she's a great cook and everyone would enjoy having her on board to cook them meals, but also she has the ability to see Spren, just like Rock. And so they are bringing her along for that reason. Now, Rysn also has what is referred to as a Larkin. It is this animal type character. It kind of reminds me in my mind's eye of a dodo bird, but it doesn't exactly look like that. But her Larkin is named Chiri Chiri, which we've met before. And there are some implications around Chiri Chiri. Chiri Chiri seems to be sick, more lethargic, not eating. Chiri Chiri has the ability to take Stormlight in directly, to take it right out of gemstones and things. And Rysn loves Chiri Chiri and she's very worried. So she's told that maybe if she could get Chiri Chiri back to what is said to be the birthplace, or where Larkins originally came from, which is this island of Amia, that maybe that's what Chiri Chiri needs. So there are all these different reasons converging as to why people need to go to this island. They want to investigate this ship, the first dreams. They want to see what happened there. They want to see why it seems like something around this island is able to take Stormlight from Surge Binders. They want to, Rysn wants to see if taking Chiri Chiri here can help to heal her Larkin. And there are some more secret reasons that Navani and Yasna feel that there is an Oath Gate on this island, and they want to send a couple Windrunners, that being Lopen and Huyo, to investigate this to see if there really is an Oath Gate there. So all these things are happening at once. So we set sail on the Wonder Sail, we head to the island, and accompanying Rysn is a figure named Nikolai. He has all these tattoos all over him, and it seems like all these scars, and there's something strange about Nikolai. As they're making their way there, some different things start happening, some bad omens. First, we have the ship's pet, which was this sky eel that was always with the ship, had died before they even set sail. Then all of their grain ends up having worms in it, another bad omen. And then we have another one of the large creatures, the name's escaping me right now, that's in the ocean, ends up dead and washes up to next to the ship. And the sailors are like, we need to turn back. Rysn is able to discern that something is going on here, that it's just too coincidental that all these things keep happening. And she feels like someone's trying to sabotage the trip. She's trying to figure out who it is. Nikolai keeps telling her that he thinks they should turn back. Everyone else on the ship is like, yeah, these are some bad omens, something's going on here, but I don't know. I really think we should push ahead. So Nikolai is doing his best to try to sabotage everything and try to trick Rysn. And he's done a lot so far to earn her trust. But we find that Rysn is so resilient and insightful. She really took in everything she could from her baptism in learning how to read people, how to keep your mind open, to not anchor to different things, to really assess a full situation like a master trades person would do. So she is watching everything unfold, and she realizes that Nikolai is really the only one that is so set on turning back. So he starts to try to convince her that Cord, Rock's daughter, is the problem, starts telling her that he's gonna go and investigate her things. Well, ahead of time, Rysn has some other people investigate all of Cord's things, and they find nothing. The following day, when Nikolai goes to investigate her things, he finds a bunch of poison, and he has this whole reasoning already thought up behind the poison and what it's for and how it was used to kill the sky eel that was said to be the ship's pet, all these different things. At this point, Rysn knows that Nikolai is the problem. So they take him and they move him off of the ship. We come to find out Nikolai is one of the sleepless. Like Arklow from the end of Edge Dancer, these other beings from a different planet in the Cosmere, these sleepless that are broken down into all these different little Kremling-like creatures that they refer to as hordlings, that are able to come together and conglomerate into different figures, even a human-like figure like Nikolai. And actually all of his scars are the seams between where all these different hordlings have come together to make up his body, and he tries to obscure that fact by covering himself in these tattoos. So we find that Nikolai is sleepless, and clearly he has powers that the characters in the books, indeed even ourselves, don't fully understand yet. All things considered, they push forward and they make it to the island. At this point, things unfold, there's a battle, they find a false oath gate that has been built to try to create the perception that the oath gate was there, but now it's just totally destroyed. They go underground and they find where the real oath gate is. They also find that there is the Dawnshard in this sort of hidden room where there's treasure. The Dawnshard seems to call upon Rysn as a command and seems to enter her mind. There's a lot more to be discovered about the Dawnshard and the implications that it plays, but we find that the Sleepless have taken it upon themselves to try to guard the secret of this Dawnshard from anyone discovering it, but more and more people are trying to get to Amia, and the popularity of the island and the fact that it may truly exist keeps rising among the general public. So Rysn finds herself in a situation where Nikolai and the other Sleepless, considering the fact that they've pushed forward despite all their efforts and made it to the island, discovered that the Oathgate's there, discovered that the Dawnshard is there, that they feel like, the Sleepless feel like they're gonna have to kill everyone in order to keep the secret safe. At this point, Rysn enters into the biggest negotiation of her career, and she has to convince Nikolai that actually, in order to keep it secret, considering that as these events keep unfolding, as more and more people try to go to the island and end up disappearing, it only makes it more and more infamous. And more people are going to want to figure it out. She convinces him to let her and her crew survive so that she can go back and tell mostly the truth of what has happened, but obscure the fact that the Dawnshard was there, and therefore keep that secret in particular safe, which is what the Sleepless really want. She's able to make the deal. And meanwhile, back on the island, while fighting the battle against these other hordlings, Lopen and Huyo end up reaching their third ideal and being able to summon their honor blades. And so we get this nice wrap up at the end of the story where things all tend to work out. So overall, I enjoy the book. It's a nice change of pace. I like Rysn as a character. I like her mental fortitude and her ability to push through her perceived boundaries, her ability to take in everything she's learned from those who have taught her, and her ability to apply that in new settings. I like the new setting in general of the narrative, where it's more of a sailing type, almost piratey sort of book. It's a fresh picture on Roshar, and all these things are nice. Some problems I have with the book is that the tone is just a little different from the other books so far, and it leans more into a juvenile, almost soft tone that's a bit childish in nature, and this is a bit of a problem that I have with the books overall. Now, I think that Brandon Sanderson clearly knows what he's doing. He's highly successful, and he's written these books so that they are accessible by essentially all age groups. But for me, I would like it if these books were a bit more, had a bit more of an adult edge, like a bit more Game of Thrones, a bit more high stakes, a bit more gritty. And in general, the main books in the series have a better balance of this. We get some gritty scenes, particularly in the beginning, The Way of Kings with Bridge 4. Like that was rough. The death of Kaladin's brother, that was rough. And then at other times, it's a bit too soft, a bit too childish for me. And it's a bit too like, oh, and everything worked out, just kind of connect the dots, and we all held hands, and we all learned some valuable lessons, and strode off into the sunset. Happy ending. It kind of takes me out of it. And this book leaned even further in that direction than normal, and that's my biggest qualm with the book. The way it wrapped up with Huyo, Lopen's cousin, reaching his third ideal, which is to say, I'll protect even those I hate. And there's this idea that he looked back at Lopen whenever he reached the ideal, and Lopen's like, so do you hate me? And he's like, no, Lopen, I don't hate you. It's just that sometimes your jokes hurt people's feelings. And it's like, okay. I thought that this was supposed to be more of a grandiose sort of situation, like, you know, say Kaladin saying he'll protect someone that he hates, like Amaram, who had his brother killed, you know, like something big like that. Not like, oh, sometimes your jokes hurt people's feelings. And then it goes on to say that Lopen reaches his by being like, I'll protect people from those, even from myself, because sometimes my jokes hurt people's feelings. I'm too jokey all the time, and I need to be more serious. It's just like, what are we doing here? You know, it's just like a little too juvenile, if you're catching my drift. The whole thing with Nikolai, and like, he's apparently been alive for centuries, and the other sleepers have been alive for like millennia, it seems, and they're from a whole other planet. Like, you'd think that they'd had thought all this out, but it just takes one conversation with Rysn there at the end being like, well, I don't know if you guys have really thought this out, because more people are gonna wanna come to the island, and if you just, you know, change everything you've been saying this whole book about how there's no other option, if you just change your mind right here and now, then we'll just, you know, come up with a different plan and it'll all work out. And then Nikolai's just like, I've been alive for hundreds of years, and this has been my sole purpose. The one thing that I've thought about most of all out of everything. I've lived many of your lifetimes over, and yeah, you bring up a good point. I am going to completely change my mind so that we can all live happily ever after. It's like, again, I think you get what I mean. This book was just, the tone was off. It was just a little too soft, a little too juvenile. I'm hoping that as we get back into Rhythm of War, that we can get back into a bit more of an adult narrative that has a bit more of an edge, a bit more high stakes. You know, I want there to be some consequences to things that are going on in the world. I want to feel like things could actually go wrong, you know, and that we need to actually, you know, come together, put our minds to work in order to avoid the most severe consequences. I want the story to have more grit, and hopefully we'll get back to that as we move on to Rhythm of War. Well, with all that said, I wanted to give my balanced view on the book. I liked it overall. I did enjoy it. And I liked, as I said, the fresh new setting and the characters and everything. The tone, we've talked about that. And so that's my overall take. And it's a good stepping stone between Oathbringer and Rhythm of War. So as we get back to this series, the next video on this series will be part 1 of Rhythm of War. Let me know what you think of my comments in the comments down below this video. If you agree with me, if you think I'm right or wrong on these things that I've brought up, and if I left out anything from the book that you really enjoyed, be sure to let me know about that. I enjoy hearing from you all. And subscribe if you want to stay caught up on this series as well as the other books we talk about on the channel. I appreciate your time watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.